Finally, we would like to invite Mbak Yenny Wahid. Her name is Mbak Zanuba Arifah Hafsah Rahman Wahid, or popularly known as Mbak Yenny Wahid. She is, well, actually my name is Yenny, Mbak Yenny. Yeah. So Mbak Yenny is an Indonesian Islamic activist, and she is the daughter of our former president Gus Dur, and she is also currently the director of the Wahid Institute. So Mbak Yenny, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Excellency Ahmed Aboutaleb, as well as other excellencies here, from the tradition of my good friend here, who always greets everyone with excellency. Mr. H.D. he always greets everyone with excellency. So, so especially the speakers here, they are people who are doing excellent job with their work. So they deserve to be called excellencies as well. Supposed to be dramatic when I started with, it always makes me sad. But when I have to repeat it 3 times, it becomes less dramatic. But it does. Always makes me sad whenever I hear non-Muslims in Indonesia say that we have to know our place. We have to restrain ourselves. We cannot express ourselves too much because we're minority here. It always makes me feel so sad. Because, if I imagine myself in their position, and I'm a minority in a non-Muslim majority country, and I want to express myself, and I want to run for a position, I want to let myself known by the society. And then I have someone telling me, you have to know yourself, you have to know your position. You're a minority here. Don't you dare doing anything. It's not your right. Maybe it is your right, but it will create so much problems for the community that you better restrain yourself. Well, I'm glad people like our mayor didn't restrain himself. People like the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, didn't restrain himself. Or someone like Barack Obama, who didn't restrain himself when he ran for president of the United States. But of course, it took how many years before Rosa Parks first created a movement in the 60s to claim for the liberty, not the liberty, but equality for the blacks in the United States. It took decades for the equality for the blacks to have equal rights, and for Barack Obama to be to be elected president of the United States in 2008. But it started with the notion of not accepting our position in the society when it is guaranteed by our constitution. It started with that. It started with the concept of realizing our rights and demanding that right to be fulfilled by the state. So I always feel so sad. And I don't think anyone should live that way. I don't think anyone should have their wings clipped or have a glass ceiling on their head and put it there themselves. I think when the Constitution guarantees that every citizen has equal rights before the law, then that's the rule that we abide by, not any other social constraint that we enforce ourselves. So that's one thing. But also, of course, yes, when we put ourselves out there might be some ripples created. There might be some even attacks against us or against our communities. Yes, it's expected. People are not going to sit down and accept anything that is different. So that's what happened with Ahok. When he dared to challenge the status quo, he got attacked back. Me and Romo, we travel a lot together in different countries. We get invited to speak to different platforms outside of Indonesia. And one of the questions that we always receive now is about Ahok. Surprise, surprise. And I do find it very difficult to try to answer the question. But if I can find it, I always say that if you try to look at Ahok, they always say that, not they, but some media try to portray Ahok's loss as the radicals winning the election, as well as the death of tolerance in Indonesia. It's not entirely correct either. I always try to explain the election by saying that you have to look at Ahok's election by looking at the US election and also the Brexit. How is that? Well, what happened was that it's a group of people using populist sentiments to gain political objectives. In the US, with the election of Donald Trump, and also in Brexit, you see populist sentiments flying around, social media, mainstream media, and every country has their own, in a way, tensions that brewing under the surface. In the US, it's about it's about race issues, and it's also about economy, so hence the issue about the immigrants, and also about religion. In Europe, it's quite similar. Immigration, race and religion as well. In Indonesia, it's about ethnicity and religion. So we've got a bunch of politicians and people who have political aspirations, even though they might not have political positions, but they use political methodologies, but their political moves, even though they might use different mantles for their identities. Some could be even claim themselves to be the leaders of religious groups, the imams, the ustads, the referents, whatever. So you've got these people who use popular sentiments of religion and ethnicity to advance their cause. You've got people who try to answer very complicated problems with simple answers. So every country also has their own context of social injustice, of the perceived social injustice, of the also a group of people who feels alienated. These two are also factors that led people to feel restless in the society. So you've got a bunch of people then trying to use these issues, these sentiments, for their political agenda. In the US, Donald Trump tried to answer the complicated problems of how jobs are not readily available anymore for white American male. He said, oh, the Mexicans stole it. He tried to portray himself as a hero. To be a hero, you need to have a villain as your opponent. So he created the Muslim terrorists and then put all Muslims there as well, just to make it the more the merrier maybe for him. So here's the same. Some people would like to be heroes. To be heroes, they have to create it. You have to create villains. They have to create the bad guys, the bad people. So they pinpoint the fingers at people who say, these are the source of the problems. These are the source of your problems. In Indonesia, we've got issues that are felt deeply by the Indonesians. One of them is corruption. Second is inequality, poverty. So we've got the, Pak Dillon knows this better than me, but our Gini coefficient rate is increasing. And that has created a lot of tensions in the society. You want to blame someone. Who could you blame? The rich. It's easy to say that, oh, they steal our lives. They're the ones who've been stealing our money. And in Indonesia also, when you have a certain ethnic group who probably is perceived to be richer than the minority, than the majority of the people, then it's easy to blame them for the problem as well. Hence, the Christians and the Chinese. So, and you've got people also keep on adding to the problems by spreading hoax messages and news, and there you go, you've got a very bitter environment in which you want to be heroes by blaming others. So those are the problem that I saw was that I could explain, try to explain the Ahok's election. Because some irresponsible people using popular sentiment for their own short benefit of maybe getting power or resources, whatever, political or economic resources. But going back to the issues of tolerance and also pluralism, no country now can claim themselves to be a country that is monolithic, that is built by a monoculture. So every country needs to come up with their own solution to this multicultural fact. Every country has to find the solution to that, has to find the formula to better manage the plurality in their society. And here in Indonesia, we used to pride ourselves in our ability to manage our pluralism in such a wonderful way, that our level of tolerance is so high. I mean, Romo said that he has no problem at all traveling to many different areas. But recently we're seeing more and more expressions of hatred. Recently we're seeing more and more people who are giving speeches that has the potential to divide the society, plus the social media. So what to do about it? I still believe that Indonesia still has the best formula to deal with our multiculturalism. Pancasila and Bhinneka Tunggal Ika are the two, what we call pusaka, or what do you call it? Pusaka itu apa ya? Heritage. The heritage that forms the basis of our ideology, but also something that is so powerful, this concept that is very powerful, that it captures the imaginations of all, that we are one nation, and that we built upon these 5 principles. I recently just came back from France, where I was exposed a bit more about the concept of laïcité, in which laïcité is the roughly translated into secularism, but it's not exactly secularism. But there, I observed that there's no place for religious expressions. People cannot wear, for Muslims, they cannot wear the headscarf or the cap when they serve in public office. Christians cannot wear their cross when they serve in public office or in school or in hospitals. Mr. Dillon of course, will not be able to wear his turban. Or the Jews cannot wear their kippas. So I told them that in Indonesia, we actually have 6 official religions. And every single holiday of these 6 religions, the country goes on holiday. So the more religions we have, the happier the Indonesians are, in theory. We should have more religions. And for them, it's quite an interesting concept. I mean, the people that I spoke to, the French people that I spoke to, because it actually shows that the state can have an engagement with religious people, with religions. And if you go to Bali, for example, during the Nyepi holiday, that's one of the religious holidays only observed by the Hindus in Indonesia. The whole country during the Nyepi holiday is pitch black. No movement, no lights, nothing. The Hindus observe this day of quietness, contemplation. Yeah, I don't know, again, there's more. But the Muslims and the Christians or other denominations of other followers of other religions who happen to be in Bali also show the acts of solidarity for this expression of religious belief. So this kind of tradition is what made Indonesia as a country that actually can adhere to tolerance much better than any other country. Because we've got that. We've got that traditions of tolerance practiced in Indonesia for hundreds of years. But now, of course, there is a risk because of, again, the irresponsible people who try to gain more positions in the society, and they use hoax, they use inflammatory speeches that has the effect of dividing the society. And to that, I'd say we have to fight back. You cannot let them claim the space. You cannot allow their voices be the only voice that the society hears. So for my friends, non-Muslims and Muslims as well, who feel that it is not their right, that they have to mind their actions, I would say no. Claim your space. Claim your rights. The Constitution has guaranteed you that. Take it. Claim that. Fight for that. My great-grandfather fought against the colonial imperialists. He was badly injured. My grandfather was amongst the leaders who agreed to the basic constitutions of Indonesia. They all fought very hard. Now, every generation has to make their own marks in history. And our generations, we have a calling also. So our founding fathers, our grandfathers, our fathers, they've done their fight. They've claimed the independence of this country. Our fight is to make sure that Indonesia will remain a tolerant country based on Pancasila and Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. And to do that, you cannot stay silent. You have to fight back. With that, I thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Yenny. That's a very intriguing question to close our session. And once again, please big applause for all the speakers today. They have presented a very interesting, very fascinating and important points. And I think we also really appreciate all the audience here. All of you raised, very important questions and comments, and we really appreciate that. And finally, I don't want to conclude anything. I think I don't have to conclude anything. All this, you know, during the whole sessions, I think it already speaks by itself. So we understand that such forum like this seminar will not offer any solution to all the problems, the challenges that we have just mentioned. But at the end, I think, but at least in my opinion, this forum, such forum, I think is still important. Is one of the ways to bracketing out of all the happenings, political happenings, social happenings around us, and it will allow us to see things in different way. So once again, thank you all for your participation, and let's close this session. And finally, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.